The light from the crystal chandelier was blinding. The clinking glasses and constant chatter from the partygoers sounded muffled, like I was hearing it all through a thick wall of frosted glass. A vintage '82 law fight was currently streaming down the front of my custom-tailored suit. The cold, sticky sensation, a prelude to the humiliation. Seraphina Reed, the woman I'd spent the better part of a year chasing, the ice queen I'd spent an obscene fortune to win over, was standing before me, her knuckles white as she gripped the now empty bottle. 2 minutes ago, at the lavish birthday party I was throwing for myself, she had given me this gift in front of everyone, all for her broke childhood sweetheart, Leo Miller. A dead silence had fallen over the room. Every pair of eyes felt like a needle, pricking at the wine-soaked stain spreading across my chest. The surprise I'd so carefully planned had become a public joke. The diamond ring I was going to use to make our relationship official was now a hard, painful lump in my pocket. A white-hot rage surged through me, so intense it threatened to burn away the last of my sanity. But as I looked into Seraphina's eyes, which were filled with nothing but contempt for me, something impossible happened. Several lines of piercing blood-red text materialized in the air before me. Nice one. This is how you get revenge on the villainous side character after being reborn. Last time he drove the hero to suicide. This time it's his turn. Serves him right. Bullies like him deserve a painful death. Bankruptcy and a lonely end is too good for him. My pupils contracted. Villainous side character reborn bullying. Leo committed suicide. As if to confirm what I was seeing, Seraphina moved to stand protectively beside Leo, her voice cutting through the silence. Leo, don't be afraid of him. So, what if he had a little dirty money? What's so great about that? She took his arm, her posture like a lioness defending her cub. With bullies like this, the more you fear them, the more they'll walk all over you. I stared at her, my hands starting to tremble uncontrollably, my fingertips ice cold. The raw fury was being replaced by a chilling sense of the bizarre. You're saying I bullied him? My voice came out as a dry rasp. Seraphina's disdain was practically dripping from her words. What else? You think that gash on his head just appeared by itself? She pointed toward the corner where Leo was slumped, looking pathetic and disheveled, blood still seeping from a wound on his forehead. Just minutes earlier, he was the one who had grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it over his own head in an unseen corner. A classic self-injury ploy. Right on cue, Leo looked up, his face so adept at playing the victim, now a perfect mask of despair. His voice was Julian. Julian didn't mean it. It's all my fault. I showed up underdressed right after my delivery shift and I dirtied up the place. I'm sorry, Julian. I was just in a hurry to wish you a happy birthday. He let out a heavy sigh and turned to Seraphina. Sarah, don't stand up for me. Just let Julian take his anger out on me. I'm used to it. People like us were nothing in his eyes. The whispers around us instantly grew louder. TSK thinks he could do whatever he wants just because he's rich. Julian Vance chased Seraphina so hard, but he still couldn't break up the childhood sweethearts. Guess he finally snapped. That's no excuse for bullying. That's just low. Leo shot me a look from across the room, his mouth forming a silent, triumphant taunt. Julian, what can you possibly do to me? My heart felt like it had been seized by an icy hand and plunged into a dark abyss. I had pursued Seraphina for an entire year. My friends had mocked me. The whole campus had buzzed about it, and I had showered her with money, grand romantic gestures, and endless flattery. I was like a devout worshiper, placing her on a pedestal, cherishing her diamond in the rough purity. Even 3 days ago, when she came to me embarrassed with a mountain of credit card debt racked up by her mother, a professional-kept woman, I had thought she was being a devoted and responsible daughter. I'd been so goddamn blind. As I wiped the wine from my eyes, it felt like I was clearing away a fog that had clouded my judgment. If that ghostly chat feed was real, she had come back from another life just to destroy me. To leave me bankrupt and dead. All because I liked her. Because she was the heroine and I was the villain destined to be her stepping stone. To hell with the Ice Queen. To hell with the pure struggling girl. All the suppressed anger. The humiliation of being played for a fool mixed with the cold, hard clarity of the truth and detonated in my chest. The next second, crack. A sharp explosive sound shattered the silence of the room. The force of the blow snapped Seraphina's head to the side. A bright red handprint already swelling on her perfect cheek. The entire party froze, turned to stone. I didn't stop. I grabbed a newly opened bottle of champagne from a nearby table and without a word dumped it over both her and a stunned-looking Leo. Are you, crazy? The shrill screams tore through the petrified atmosphere. I shook my tingling hand, a cold smirk spreading across my face as I met the shocked, fearful, and disbelieving stares of the crowd. Stand up for him. Who are you to stand up for anyone? My gaze locked on his Serafina's pale, dripping face. You who doesn't even know her own place. I happen to know a couple of nicely located plots of land. You too interested? The ghostly red text scrolled frantically overhead. What? Isn't the villain supposed to be deeply in love with the heroine? This isn't in the script. Got to say though, with that kind of vicious streak, it's no wonder the heroine lost to him in the last life. The shock of the cold champagne seemed to snap Serafina out of her stupor. She clutched her cheek, staring at me in utter disbelief. Her voice a twisted, tearful question. Julian, you hit me. How could you? How could you bear to hit me? How could I bear it? I let out a sharp laugh, stalking toward her. I swung again, this time with my other hand, catching her on the other cheek. Another 2 sharp cracks echoed in the silent hall. Got to make it symmetrical. Didn't your mother, when she was busy being a rich man's plaything, teach you the basic duties of a gold digger? My voice was low, but every word was laced with ice. You're not a diamond in the rough. You're just playing in the mud. You eat my food, use my things, and take my money to pay off your mother's debts. And you have the audacity to cause a scene at my expense. I whipped around to face Leo, who looked like he was about to speak. Crack. Another backhand. This one sending him stumbling. I was so focused on her, I almost forgot about you, I said, my eyes dark. You better pray that I really was bullying you before. Because starting today, I leaned in close, my voice a low hiss only he could hear. I'm going to show you what it really means to have your life ruined with the snap of a finger. You think a slap here and there's the worst I can do? That's nothing. A slap here and there, bullying drove him to suicide. I, Julian Vance, had never stooped that low. Why would I waste my time on a pathetic loser who I outclassed in every conceivable way? Academically, financially, socially. I barely even bothered to look at him. He was the one constantly whining about how unfair life was, spreading rumors that I had pulled strings to steal a scholarship he thought he deserved. Pathetic. I rolled my aching wrist and scanned the silent faces of my guests. Everyone heard that. Feeling sorry for this tragic pair of star-crossed lovers, I held up my hands. Fine. The money I spent on her this past year, considered a donation to a lost cause. She can keep it, but from now on, keep my name out of your mouths. My eyes swept across the room. A man could be blind for a while, but he shouldn't be stupid. Are we all clear? Dead silence. Finally, Chris Young, my best friend, was the first to react. He shoved Leo out of the way and threw an arm around my shoulders, his voice buzzing with excitement. That's what I'm talking about, Julian. I told you that girl was bad news. Being AS never pays off. As I turned to leave, the text feed exploded again. The villain is leaving. That's not how it's supposed to go. What about the startup capital from the black card? Without that money, how are the hero and heroine supposed to make a killing in the stock market? The key moment to buy-in is coming. What's the panic? The villain is obsessed with her. I glanced at the obnoxious red letters, then took the towel Chris offered me and wiped my face. This suit was a total loss. I ripped off the soap jacket, twisted into a ball, and used it to scrub a smudge off my handmade leather shoes before tossing it on the floor like a piece of trash. Listen, I said, my voice quiet, but carrying clearly to Serafina. I'm having all of your supplementary cards canceled. I want you and your junk out of my apartment by midnight. Serafina's eyes instantly turned red. A mixture of shock, humiliation, and a bottomless well of hatred swirling within them. It all culminated in a single defiant threat. Fine, Julian Vance. I'll never use another cent of your money. You will regret this. She straightened her back, trying to project an aura of proud defiance. It was that very quality, that unbreakable spirit that I had once found so captivating. Chris snorted. Regret it. A guy like Julian can have any woman he wants. Come on, man. Let's go. We'll celebrate your birthday somewhere else. My treat. Who's coming? He yelled to the crowd. It was like a spell had been broken. After a moment of hesitation, the guests swarmed over surrounding Chris and me. No one gave Serafina or Leo a second glance. I clapped Chris gratefully on the shoulder. He grinned. Anytime, bro. That's what friends are for. You can't just turn feelings off like a switch. I had poured a year of my life into that relationship. And despite the anger, disappointment was inevitable. Steam filled the air of the luxurious spa suite in the Catskills. Beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, rolling mountains unfolded like a vibrant green watercolor painting. Chris and I sat by the window. A platter of glistening sashimi fresh from an ice bath between us. I swirled the amber liquid in my glass, watching it trace paths down the crystal. At the edge of my vision, the obnoxious red text scrolled by. The villain has only been moping for a week, and he hasn't tried to contact the heroine. This plot is going off the rails. Our heroine has it so rough. The villain is so cruel. He canceled her cards and now she's working 3 jobs to pay off debt. Living on ramen for days. It's just money. Let the villain enjoy his little power trip. Once our girl makes her come back, he'll be the one crying. Chris waved a hand in front of my face. Julian, you spacing out? Why the long face? You're not still thinking about that toxic mess, are you? I didn't answer right away. My fingers drumming a slow, heavy rhythm on the smooth table. Chris frowned. He knew that gesture. The last time he'd seen me do that was right before I had my manipulative half-brother committed to a long-term care facility to live out his golden years. A shiver went down his spine. That look on your face. Before he could finish, a genuine smile spread across my lips. Chris, your cousin, Evelyn Shaw, she's back from her postdoc, right? If I remember correctly, she's in cutting-edge biotech research. Chris's eyes lit up. Yeah, she was just asking about you the other day. Said she was impressed with how you took the helm of Vance Holdings at such a young age, that you were brilliant. He leaned in, lowering his voice. Honestly, man, my cousin is definitely interested in you. My interests, however, were elsewhere. Good. I'm very interested in her research. I genuinely wanted to know what the hell this thing I was seeing was. Was it some kind of brainwave interference or an unreleased form of augmented reality technology if it could be reverse engineered? The business potential was staggering. So, you've moved on? Chris said, relieved. Of course. I nodded, my eyes flicking to the chattering red text with a hint of mockery. They want to sling mud at me. Fine. I'll use it as fertilizer and bury them with what grows. Chris just looked confused. I slid my business card across the table to him with an enigmatic air. Set it up. I want to meet your cousin as soon as possible. The red text overhead began to churn again. What's with the cryptic talk? He's just bluffing because he can't have the heroine's love. Try and make the heroine jealous with another woman. It won't work. She's not falling for that. I stared at the self-assured text and let out a slow, cold smile. My eyes, however, were arctic. Love wasn't a switch you could just flip off. That much was true. Time would dull the edges, but my own self-interest that was eternal. I raised my glass with contempt and drained the last of the liquor. Dr. Evelyn Shaw sat across from me. A crisp white blouse, a dark navy pencil skirt, simple, professional, immaculate. There was a faint, almost imperceptible scent of antiseptic about her that seemed to cut through the frustration that had been hounding me for days. She shook my hand, her fingertips cool. Dr. Shaw, I'm a friend of Chris's. I assume he told you why I wanted to meet. I got straight to the point. Let's be direct. With current technology, is it possible to project text-based information directly onto a person's retina without any external hardware? Her expression was as calm as a placid lake. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. Given the physiological limits of carbon-based life forms and the current level of technology, non-invasive neural information access and real-time visual nerve translation are impossible. Her answer was as precise as a peer-reviewed paper. And what if I told you I can see it? I looked her directly in the eye, my tone absolute. The red text immediately started to flicker with agitation. What's going on? Is this a bug? So, what if the villain can see us? What's he going to do about it? Yeah, try and get us through the screen, tough guy. Evelyn considered this for a moment. Behind her glasses, her eyes flashed with a sharp, almost dangerous curiosity. In that case, Mr. Vance, the specific frequency of your brain waves would be a subject of immense research value. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. I pulled 2 folders from my briefcase and pushed them across the table. This file contains my recent EEG scans, and this one is a business proposal. If we can decipher the mechanism behind this technology, the market potential is limitless. You come in with tech equity 15%. How does that sound? Evelyn stared at me, a faint smile touching her lips. You don't seem frightened by this at all, Mr. Vance. I shrugged. I'm a businessman. I can be stupid enough to chase a woman for a year, but I would never let that stupidity compromise my core interests. She accepted the proposal without hesitation. You misunderstand me, Mr. Vance. I just find it. She paused, her eyes filled with admiration. Fascinating. And her smile widened with a playful edge. I'm finding you more and more interesting. Just then, a glaring red line of text jumped out. These low-dimensional beings are hilarious. A couple of ants overestimating their own importance. The heroine has the advantage of being reborn. The villain has no idea, but the two core projects he's about to invest in are about to be stolen right out from under him. Almost simultaneously, my phone blared with an urgent alert. My usually unflappable assistant, Mr. Chun, was on the line, his voice tight with an uncharacteristic panic. Mr. Vance, Mr. Ford over at Windward Incorporated, there's a college student here calls herself Serafina Reed. She's approached him with a core investment proposal that's almost identical to ours, but that plan was top secret. The red text loaded. Look at his face. Getting screwed over by a reborn protagonist is the best. So satisfying. Mr. Chin's voice grew more frantic. Ms. Reed is waiting in the lobby right now. She says she has something she wants to discuss with you. I grabbed my jacket and gave Evelyn a curtain nod. Something's come up. We'll talk later. I turned and strode out of the room. The elevator climbed smoothly, the numbers ticking upward. I raised my right hand, flexing my wrist as I thoughtfully considered the optimal angle and force for slapping someone across the face. The metal doors slid open silently on the Italian leather sofa in the executive waiting area. Serafina sat with a casual, confident posture. The irony was thick. Not long ago, on a far more expensive sofa in my penthouse, she had been a bundle of nerves, like a child who had wandered into a world too big for her. Now dressed in a simple student-like dress. Her face held an off-place sense of calm, almost triumphant. "Why did you block my number?" she began, her chin tilted up in accusation. I fought down the urge to slap her again. "Is that all you came to say?" "Security," I said coldly. "You don't have to call them." Serafina shot to her feet, her haughty demeanor firmly in place. "You think I wanted to come here? Julian, I'm here to put you on notice." Her voice rose thick with the thrill of a declaration of war. "We're going to fight Vance Holdings to the bitter end. We know all about your plans. Once your company goes under, let's see how you keep up this act." I handed a file to Mr. Chun and crooked a finger at her. "Write the act. Come on, present your cheek. We can skip the civil mediation this time. How about another $50,000 slap? If you behave, I'll even throw in another 50 grand for emotional damages. You can use it to pay off your mother's credit cards. I assume she's maxed them out again." A visible tremor ran through Serafina's body as if I had struck her most vulnerable nerve. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. "Julian, you should be begging me right now. Begging me to go easy on you." Almost laughed out loud. "Beg you, Serafina, you really have an overinflated sense of self-worth. If Chris were here, he'd tell her that the last person who threatened me is pushing up daisies." Serafina clearly misread my calm as a bluff. Her expression shifted, revealing a bizarre mix of nostalgia and conflict. She took a step closer, her voice softening into a deliberately crafted melancholic tone. "Julian, I know you still love me and you're still angry. If you just apologize to me, I'm willing to forgive you. After all, what we had, I cut her off sharply. How long does 3 days count as a lifetime?" I was losing my patience. Forget 3 days, even if it were 3 years. The moment you chose to pour a bottle of wine on me for another man, you became worthless. I raised a hand and rubbed my temples. Serafina flinched, instinctively covering her face. You poured champagne on me, too." "Not enough," I said flatly. I tilted my head, my gaze dismissive. "Where are you? And what am I? You want me to regret this? I'll play along now. Get out." Security practically had to drag her out of the building. Back in my office, I immediately called the head of Vance Holdings' legal department. The red text was still scrolling. "I don't get this plot. How did the villain suddenly fall out of love? What is he doing? What's his plan?" Half an hour later, I hung up the phone. I looked at the chattering words in the air and let out a cold smirk. "You call yourselves higher dimensional beings, and you can't even figure this out." I spoke to the empty room. "It's simple. I'm making a few preparations while I wait for her to come crawling back to me." The red text feed exploded. "Dream on. Don't go against the protagonist. Don't you understand what plot armor is? She's blessed by fate. If you just played your part as a stepping stone, you could have gotten a piece of the pie." "A piece of the pie?" I sounded as if I'd heard the funniest joke in the world, pressing a fist to my lips to stifle a laugh. "The pie is only so big. If I can have it all, why would I share it with anyone else? Just because she's the great heroine." My eyes suddenly turned sharp. "In that case, I'm the goddamn final boss. 1 month later, a pre-victory silence hung in the air of my office on the top floor of Vance Tower. I leaned back in my chair, my fingers drumming idly on the desk, watching the haggard, dull-looking Serafina sitting across from me. Her carefully made-up face was etched with exhaustion. The smug confidence that came with her supposed foreknowledge had been ground down to nothing by the harsh realities of the world. She talked a lot, using words like partnership and win-win try to disguise the bone-deep desperation of a beggar. The red text scrolled overhead full of shot and fraud. Mr. Ford at Windward actually turned the heroine down. It's a man's world after all. Now I get why she had to come to the villain. His backing and that black card are crucial, but she's supposed to be an independent heroine. Why does she still need a man? What do you know? Why shouldn't a woman take a shortcut? Relying on a man doesn't make you less a feminist. I couldn't help it. I snorted with laughter. All right, then. The logic of higher dimensional beings was truly something else. You can't teach a person a lesson with words, but experience that only takes once. The viruses of money and opportunity only spread through the bloodlines of power and competence. She thought she could just hijack my success because she'd lived this life before. A fantasy. Why in the world would Vance Holdings' hand over a core project to an incompetent heroine like her? After being shut down at every turn, Serafina had finally been forced to face reality. Her carefully constructed pride had completely crumbled, and tears of humiliation welled in her eyes. Looking as if she were about to make a final desperate gamble, she spoke, her voice trembling almost imperceptibly. Julian, can you help us? Just a little startup capital. I raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on my lips as I slowly recited her own grand declaration from a month ago. Julian, you'll regret this. I'll never use another cent of your money. So what if you have money? I didn't want to come here anyway. Every word was a cold needle, piercing the mask of composure she was struggling to maintain. Need me to remind you of any more? Serafina bit her lips so hard it turned white. She took a shaky breath, her voice dropping to a whisper. I know you're still angry. If you're just willing to help me this one time. Her gaze flickered away. Her next words a desperate implicit offer. You can do whatever you want to me. Stop. I slapped the cover of her ridiculously flawed business proposal shut. Let's be clear. What exactly is our relationship right now? A complex mix of emotions crossed her face. Shame, conflict, and a tiny, pathetic flicker of hope. She seemed to grab onto it like a lifeline, her voice turning eager and pleading. I'll be your girlfriend. A good one. I promise. A deeply ironic smile curved my lips. I picked up her proposal and hurled it directly at her. The white pages scattered like her shattered dignity, fluttering pathetically to the floor. What kind of fantasy are you living in, Serafina? My voice was pure ice. We are merely alumni from the same university. I looked down at her as she scrambled on the floor to pick up the papers as if trying to piece together her own broken pride. You want me to fund this garbage? Our tenuous alumni connection isn't worth the kind of money you couldn't earn in 100 lifetimes. Serafina froze. She remained crouched on the floor, her shoulders beginning to shake uncontrollably. The sound of her sniffling was loud in the silent office. Julian. Her voice was thick with tears, as if she had finally been crushed by the weight of it all. I admit it. I need you. Are you satisfied now? I really need this money. I watched with cold detachment as her last vestiges of baffling arrogance were finally ground into dust. Only then did I offer my assessment. You really are just like your mother, a cheap parasite who thinks a little time in a rich man's bed gives her the right to claim a controlling stake. The words hit her like a sledgehammer. Serafina's hand jerked and the paper she had just gathered fell from her grasp once more. She shot her head up, her eyes blazing red with the raw pain and fury of having her deepest wound torn open. You were never like this before. How could you? How could you insult me like that? Before I countered, __, my gaze as sharp as a scalpel. It seems you're not just living in the past of this life, but also in the distant luxurious past life where I was obsessed with you. Her pupils contracted violently. She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. After a few seconds of dead silence, she scrambled to her feet, abandoning the scattered papers and stumbling toward the door. Before she left, she turned back, giving me one last look filled with a mixture of despair, hatred, and a final hollow bluff. Her voice was a ragged whisper. I will make you respect me, Julian. This isn't over. The door slammed shut behind her. I spun the Mont Blanc pen in my fingers, the cool metal, keeping my mind perfectly clear. A faint sense of pity, or perhaps the cruel amusement of a cat playing with a mouse, surfaced. TSK, how pathetic. I murmured to the empty office. Well, trash belongs in the trash heap. I pressed the intercom. Mr. Chun, aren't there still a few pieces of garbage on the board my dear half-brother left behind? See if you can arrange a meeting between them and our Ms. Reed, who is in need of startup capital. Let the willing fish take the bait. Mr. Chen's voice came back full of understanding. Right away, Mr. Vance. I hung up and turned my gaze to the empty air. The red text was going insane. That was too humiliating. How could you bully her when she's already so down? Do you have any idea how much courage it took for her to come to you? The sacrifice she was willing to make. Just, you damn villain. I savored their impotent rage, waiting until the sound of Mr. Chen's footsteps faded down the hall before I spoke to the air again. A slow, deliberate smile spreading across my face. Getting angry, upset. Did I hit a nerve? The curve of my lips was a naked provocation. You've hated me for this long, so why haven't you killed me yet? Could it be because you don't want to? The red text abruptly stopped as if someone had it by the throat. I enjoyed the brief moment of peace, my voice light. Oh, so it's because you can't. After I had thrown Serafina out the last time, I had personally added her name to the blacklist for all secure areas of Vance Holdings. The only reason she had been able to get in front of me again was because I had allowed it. I had needed to confirm one thing. Could this group of self-proclaimed higher-dimensional beings actually do anything to me or to this world besides buzz around like annoying flies? The answer was obvious. Higher-dimensional beings. I laughed out loud, the sound echoing in the vast office, thick with utter contempt. You're nothing but a swarm of mosquitoes that can't even draw blood. Why are you putting on such airs? My expression suddenly turned cold. It seems you can't protect her. So, the real question is, can you protect yourselves? My smile widened, filled with the thrill of a hunter who has discovered his prey's weakness. I'm very curious. An email notification chimed. It was a reply to the encrypted project brief I had sent to Evelyn Shaw day earlier. The subject line was simple and powerful. Phase 1 breakthrough resonance frequency locked. A triumphant smile lit up my eyes. It seemed the party was over for my little swarm of mosquitoes. The courtroom's domed ceiling was high and solemn. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light slanting down from the tall windows. The atmosphere was as heavy and still as the air before a thunderstorm. The gallery was packed. Reporter cameras were like 100 black, unblinking eyes, all focused on me. Across the room, Serafina and Leo sat at the defendant's table, flanked by a nervous, low-budget lawyer. The prosecuting attorney's voice was firm and clear. The defendants, Serafina Reed and Leo Miller, disseminated a large volume of false information online, fabricating claims of bullying by Mr. Julian Vance and maliciously slandering his name. This has caused severe damage to Mr. Vance's personal reputation and the commercial standing of Vance Holdings. The sheer volume of shares and reposts indicates an extremely egregious and premeditated campaign of defamation. Leo's face was ashen. I didn't. It was him. Julian Vance used his power to bully me. He was the one who hit me that night. He poured wine all over me. Serafina can prove it, he yelled, trying to sound defiant. Serafina sat ramrod straight, clinging to her last shred of dignity. But her voice trembled. That's right. He was bullying Leo. He has all the money and power. We're ordinary people like us supposed to do. A murmur rippled through the gallery. My lawyer rose calmly. Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to present a key piece of evidence. The judge nodded. The courtroom lights dimmed. On a large screen, a crystal-clear surveillance video began to play. The angle was unusual, clearly from a well-hidden pinhole camera. The location was the private room at the restaurant where I'd held my birthday party, an unmonitored corner. In the video, Leo's face was perfectly clear. His expression was twisted with envy and resentment. His voice a venomous hiss. Julian, it's really not fair, is it? We have the same birthday. So why? Just because you're rich, everyone only remembers you. Sometimes I, hate you. So tonight, I'm giving you a special gift. With that, he snatched an empty wine bottle from the table and without a moment's hesitation, smashed it over his own head. Crack. The dull thud of the impact was amplified in the silent courtroom. Glass fragments flew. Leo crumpled to the ground. Blood immediately starting to flow from his temple. The video froze on that frame. Silence. Absolute deafening silence. You could have heard a pin drop. The blood drained from Leo's face, leaving him looking like a crumbling statue. Serafina's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with utter shock and disbelief. She clearly had no idea that I had planted a camera in the one spot she had been so sure was safe. I looked at Leo, my face impassive, my voice carrying clearly through the microphone. Mr. Miller, the difference between a man and an ape is that men know how to use tools. For instance, surveillance cameras. You can't even figure that out. And yet you have the audacity to come here and peddle your lies. Leo looked like he had been struck by lightning. Impossible, he blurted out. Sarah said there were no cam. He cut himself off, realizing his mistake, but it was too late. My lawyer immediately pounced on the opening. Oh, and how would Ms. Reed know that a private high-end establishment that values its clients' privacy had no cameras in that specific area? This seems to suggest a deep familiarity with the venue, which contradicts her earlier testimony that she was merely an invited guest. We have reasonable cause to suspect that Ms. Reed was not only aware of this defamation plot but may have conspired with Mr. Miller to stage the self-injury. The gallery erupted. Camera flashes strobed relentlessly. Serafina's face was now completely white. She looked like she was about to faint. I cleared my throat and under the glare of a 100 lenses faint shock into the microphone. Wait, this Sarah you just mentioned, are you referring to Ms. Serafina Reed? I furrowed my brow. My tone a perfect blend of confusion and cold realization. Forgive me. I'm just stunned. The two of you are that close because this Ms. Reed happens to be the primary suspect in a corporate espionage case I filed with the police 1 week ago. Before the words had even finished echoing, the piercing wail of sirens ripped through the courtroom's clamor. My legal team, moving with practiced efficiency, entered the court, accompanied by several uniformed police officers. Before anyone could fully process what was happening, it was over. Click. 2 pairs of cold steel handcuffs snapped shut around Serafina's and Leo's wrists. No. What are you doing? Let me go. Serafina shrieked, struggling frantically. Julian, you framed me. Leo screamed hysterically. My assistant calmly directed his staff to distribute thick dossiers to every reporter in the room. Members of the press, he announced, his voice steady. Mr. Vance formally reported. Miss Serafina Reed to the authorities 1 week ago on suspicion of stealing core trade secrets from Vance Holdings and participating in illegal fundraising activities. Furthermore, he pointed at Leo. Mr. Leo Miller is being charged with slander, leal, and the malicious dissemination of false information causing significant reputational and financial damages to both Mr. Vance and Vance Holdings. A formal investigation was opened this morning. Out of respect for their shared history as university students, Mr. Vance had hoped to handle this matter discreetly, but given the severity of the crimes, he has a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of his company's shareholders and employees. I clapped my hands softly and stood, my gaze sweeping over the two of them as they were being dragged away like trapped animals. A frog thinks it has seen the whole world when it leaps from its well, never knowing that the hunter has already laid a net across the sky. From the moment she first stepped into my building with larceny in her heart, her fate was sealed. The willing fish takes the bait, and every tool serves its purpose. Garbage belongs in a garbage heap. I adjusted the cuffs of my suit and addressed the sea of stunned, curious, and irate faces below. I cleared my throat again, my voice now resonant with the confidence of total control. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems our press conference will have to be delayed by 30 minutes. In half an hour, my eyes scan the flashing cameras. I hope we will be celebrating a technology that is about to change the world instead of wasting our precious time on these pathetic and sordid affairs. A pause, my gaze sharp. I, Julian Vance, am a man of action. I don't deal in pretty words. I prove myself with results, and I assure you time and superior technology will provide all the answers. After a beat of silence, thunderous applause erupted both inside and outside the courtroom. 30 minutes was more than enough time for the reporters to file their explosive stories and more than enough time for the name Serafina Reed and Leo Miller to become infamous across the country. As 2 female officers dragged the struggling Serafina from the room, she craned her neck, her eyes bloodshot, and screamed my name with all her remaining strength. Julian. Her voice was cut short as an officer restrained her. I gave her a slight nod from across the chaotic room and silently mouthed 2 words, "Who gave you permission?" In that instant, it was as if her soul had been ripped from her body. Her eyes went vacant, her face a mask of gray, absolute despair. Her lips moved, forming silent words I could easily read. Julian, you win. You sent me to prison again. I smiled faintly, my eyes filled with cold mockery and complete understanding. You deserved it. So that's how it ended for you in the last life, too. You really didn't learn a thing. Stupid greed and greedy stupidity, the deadliest poisons of them all. As if brushing off a speck of dust, I turned and walked toward my private exit. The fate of the story's two heroes, whether they would face ruin or damnation, was no longer my concern. The lights of the press conference were as bright as a galaxy. On the massive screen behind the stage, a new interactive interface flowed with futuristic light. From the audience came a tidal wave of applause and camera flashes. I stood at the center of the stage, the future in my fingertips. Ladies and gentlemen, my voice boomed through the state-of-the-art sound system. Synaptic vision. A new era of interaction delivered directly to the retina without external hardware. Begins today. Launched by Vance Holdings in partnership with Clarity Labs. Evelyn stood beside me, her eyes shining behind her glasses with the pure unadulterated thrill of scientific breakthrough. Chris rushed onto the stage, shoved a huge bouquet of dew-kissed champagne roses into my arms, and then dramatically hopped aside, leaving the spotlight for Evelyn and me. The applause went on and on. Evelyn and I shared a smile and walked off stage, leaving the technical demonstration to the team. A celebratory dinner? I asked, turning to her and offering her the bouquet as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Evelyn accepted the flowers, burying her face in them for a moment to inhale their rich fragrance. She looked up, her eyes dancing with both a smile and a sly, knowing glint. "So, Mr. Vance, the flowers, the dinner invitation, is this your official attempt at asking me out?" I took off my glasses and began slowly polishing the lenses with a velvet cloth, using the motion to hide a flicker of genuine emotion in my eyes. After a moment, I put them back on and met her gaze directly. "And if the answer is yes, would you still do me the honor, Dr. Shaw?" Evelyn blinked, her smile brightening. "Well, who can say what the future holds?" She clutched the bouquet like a hard-won trophy and fell in a step beside me. "After all, life is full of infinite possibilities, isn't it?" I looked into her eyes and saw the same sharpness, the same ambition, the same hunger for the unknown that I saw in myself. And I smiled. Of course, it is. The past was smoke. The villains and their petty dramas were merely a prologue. My journey was just beginning out toward a sea of stars and endless unknowns. New rivals, new territories, and even greater ambitions were all glittering on the horizon. I had washed away the blood of the old story. The future was already unfolding right in the palm of my